All right, good evening, everybody. We do have quorum. It is 6 p.m.-ish. I'm going to go ahead and call this evening's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Florence to order. First item on this evening's agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting of June 27th, 2024. Minutes have been sent to members of the board at ample time to review. Are there any amendments or changes to these minutes? There being none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next item on this evening's agenda is approval of the meeting calendar for 2025. These dates have been sent out to members of the board in ample time to review. Can't really change these, so do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The calendar is approved. Please go ahead and put these dates in your calendars. Next item on this evening's agenda is BZA hearing number 2025-01. Let me pull it up here real quick. Request for a variance from the interior side and rear setbacks and total impervious surface for a detached garage on a residential parcel. Location is 1858 Devonshire Drive, tax map number 90042-11-003. Owner of record is Truman and Heather Flowers. The applicant is Truman and Heather Flowers. Zoning district is Neighborhood Conservation-15 NC-15. The board will now hear from city staff.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. All right, so Truman and Heather Flowers, the homeowners of 1858 Devonshire Drive, are seeking a variance. They want to construct a detached garage on the south side of their property and also add a driveway extension and parking pad. So here you can see the location map. This is off of Marsh Avenue, and you can see East Sandhurst Drive up to the north to give you a little bit of context. In the zoning map, it is zone NC-15, Neighborhood Conservation. And future land use is consistent with that zoning. So here's the site plan provided by the homeowner. What they wish to do, you can see the driveway extension on the south side of the property, as well as the new garage, 22 feet by 30 feet. It's going to be 9 feet high with 8-foot door. And what they're seeking is a variance from the side setback, which in this zoning district requires 10 feet for an accessory building, just like the house. So they are asking for a variance to get that down to 5 feet. And also with the built environment, we're looking at an impervious surface ratio of about 47%. And table 2-5.2.1 caps that at 40%. So we just need to keep in mind those two variants, the side setback variance of 5 feet and the impervious surface ratio, which would be a 7% difference from what the code permits. And here are some elevations of the proposed building for the detached garage. And some of the things they're dealing with, they have a existing circular driveway, the home footprint itself, as well as the above ground pool is limiting where they're able to place this detached garage to provide additional parking. So we did receive an email from the owner of 1854 Devonshire Drive, which is the property owner to the north. And then the applicant got a verbal consent from the property owner of 1862 that, hey, I understand what you're doing and we're okay with what you're proposing.
Derek, I'm so sorry. You said the address was 1854?
1854 to
okay,
the
and
north.
That's the northern.
That's the neighbor on the right side, right?
Yes, exactly. Like if you were facing the street, they would be on the right side.
Okay.
If I'm facing the street, yeah. Or if we're facing the house. I know, I didn't want to do it too many different ways. But, yeah, if you can see there, 1854 is the property to the north.
Okay.
1862 is the one to the south.
To the south, where the building will actually be 5 feet away from their property line. And they gave verbal consent to the Flowers that it was okay to construct this detached garage as they understand it.
And you received an email from this particular owner of the property?
1854 gave us an email. 1862 gave verbal consent.
Okay, 1852 verbal, and the 1854 was email.
So, and then just showing that this situation exists in other parts of the neighborhood, surrounding streets. These are just some aerial photos of some properties off Marsh Avenue, Devonshire Drive, that have garages that may not meet the current standards for setbacks, as shown in the Unified Development Ordinance, and also perhaps impervious surface ratio. So these pictures are just to show that there is some precedence in the surrounding neighborhoods for what the Flowers are proposing.
Have you received anyone saying no towards them not doing this?
No phone calls to the office that, I was not here last week, but, no, not that I've heard anything about Elaine. This is Elaine's case, and, she gets to be on vacation this week. Like, I got to be on vacation last week. She would have told us. And Jerry just confirmed that we did not receive any calls.
And y'all did put out postage and signs?
We did put out signage to let the neighbors know, and we did send out letters. And you can see the sign in front of their house. You know, we put those out like 15 days before. So I'm sure that the Flowers are tired of having that sign in their yard. That's right. So just some findings of fact to go over. The placement of two-car garage will mainly impact the neighbor to the south, but visually from the street will be minimal. The restrictions from our Unified Development Ordinance on accessory buildings, the overarching, I guess, spirit is to prevent overcrowding of residential properties. What is sort of getting in the way of placing the garage in a different area would be the footprint of the house, the above ground pool, and just the existing environment as it currently stands. The lots in the neighborhood are generally the same size as the houses, and again, just the built environment is really restricting the placement of the accessory building. And to deny the variance would mean that they are not going to be able to put the detached garage where they want to, and maybe not on the property. But I think that completes staff's report. If y'all have any questions.
Is there a HOA?
Derek, you mentioned the presence, the presence of the other properties that would set the stage for this to be approved. Those properties that you had listed up there, were those gone through the proper channels as far as applying for the permits? Or were they actually, when they built the house, was that the site plan?
I think for a majority of them, they would have been built pre-2018 Unified Development Ordinance. So I think the previous zoning ordinance would have a little bit different character. So in showing these properties, we're just showing that the built environment of the neighborhood does have instances where the detached garage may be closer than 10 feet to the side property line, and some of these houses do have impervious surface that may exceed 40%. Just to show that there may be some precedents out there surrounding.
As well as the existing structures that they have, the detached structures that you had on the aerials?
Right. As far as we know, everything that we showed was put in correctly by the code.
Very well.
Yes, sir.
Is it, I'm just curious, is it listed on the property card as such?
Yeah, it will say the date of when the house was constructed. Some of the accessory buildings, I think it does say constructed when, but probably not in every instance.
Very well, very well.
Yes, sir.
Terry, could you go back to that site plan?
Sure.
There.
Made that at the bottom for that large group of,
Trees.
actually bamboo that's been taken out since this aerial photograph was taken.
Okay, 'cause that's,
And the sun, of course, will not restrict free of the schools that are on the neighbor's property.
I think he has the next question.
There we go. Thank you, Mrs. Moses.
All right, any other questions from members of the board for city staff?
Yes,
Go
sir,
ahead.
Mr. Tuning, or Chairman Tuning, I do have a question. Derek, as far as, I know the other adjacent, property owners, I mean, was there any calls? I know you said nothing negative. Was there any attempts to reach out to the other property owners directly abutting up to these properties, specifically the ones looking like to the rear?
Right. When we send out letters, our GIS system attaches the properties that are directly adjacent. So the neighbors would have gotten letters, and if we somehow they did not get a letter, they would have seen the signage in the front yard posted. It was on the city website. We do put it in the newspaper, so we definitely gave proper public notice.
Very well. Yeah, I was just doing a little research and looking at the property owners. Looks like one of them, it was going through a state, so, you know, there might be a potential in the new owners, but, you know, that's in the future.
Exactly. That's something to think about.
Posted, I actually have spoken to that new owner. That was, Alan Jean's house. I didn't get anything written or anything, but I spoke to him to let him know what I was doing. He's planning on putting up a fence himself, so, because there's chain link in that, most of in that neighborhood, he's gonna put up a privacy fence there.
and that's the,
I also talked to Mr.
Wait, hold on one second. We're gonna get through the city, and then we'll get you to come up here. Then I can swear you in, make it legal. So you just
I can ask you that question.
let's
when
put a
we
pin
get
in
up
that one for one more second. Sorry about that, mister. All right. Any other questions for city staff, for members of the board?
Thanks, buddy.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
The-
Yes, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Oh.
Derek, just make it on record. This is not a codes enforcement. This is actually applying for proper plans and,
We would have to ask the applicant. As far as I know, it was not a codes enforcement issue. They
From the
came
city.
to us. Right, exactly, because this is just proposed. Nothing has been done yet, to my knowledge.
very well. Sorry.
Are you good? You good? Yeah.
Good
Thank you,
question.
Derek.
Yeah, good question.
All right, thank you very much. The board will now hear from the applicants. Either Mr. or Ms. Flowers are happy to step up to the microphone. If you could, sir. Is it? Yeah, it's green.
It's green.
If you don't mind, just state your name clearly, and then I'm going to swear you in.
Okay.
Yep.
Truman Flowers.
All right, Mr. Flowers, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth? And that's it.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I was waiting for additional.
No, yeah. No, this is a quasi-legal ceremony. If this is appealed, next step up to circuit court, so we treat it like a hearing.
Gotcha.
So that's the reason for the formality, but, all right, go ahead, sir.
I was explaining to Mr. Poston earlier, I had spoken to that new neighbor, the house that was in probate, I think you said. That was Al and Jean. What was their last name? I don't remember their last name. It was an elderly couple. So I spoke to that new resident. He said he had no problem with it. I also spoke with Mr. Mark Hyman, who lives right behind us. I spoke to him on the telephone. That was probably when they first got the letter, so probably early January. No problem with him either. In matter of fact, he's going to probably apply for some kind of building permit or something like that for the same thing, because he has a temporary building in the northwestern corner of his property, and he's going to get rid of that temporary building and put a permanent structure.
and these properties we're discussing, those are the ones that's directly behind you?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Mr. Hyman lives directly behind me, and to his south is the new neighbor.
Okay, now also with the structure, and I'm thinking about height, 'cause I see how the roof is set on this, what you're having put up. There's no overlay where there won't be anything going onto the neighbor's property, will it? Like say if it's raining or anything like that?
No, with allowing for the 5-foot variance on the side, with the way the slope of the roof is and everything, it has plenty of runoff area. Excuse me. And the back will be the pitch of the roof, which is the 9-foot pitch, and it actually is gonna be about 6.5 to 7 feet off the back property line.
Okay, so anything,
So I've got more room on the back property line than I do on the side.
okay. Okay.
And the building also, we chose colors to match pretty much what the house is. So the house is like an off antique white, and we chose white on the building, and then the roof is gonna be a gray color, because it's all metal building. The roof is a gray color to sort of match the, color of the shingles we have on the roof now.
So it's gonna be aesthetically pleasing as well as matching the rest of the neighborhood.
We're gonna try.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant from members of the board?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Mr. Flowers, do you have a plat or survey of the property?
I do not. Like I said, most of the neighborhood has chain link fences that are set right on the property lines. I know that the chain link fence that's off the 5-foot variance is actually on my side of the property line. So there's probably a little bit more than 5 foot. But the back fence line is the neighbor's property, Mr. Hyman's.
And just to make sure, you're asking for a variance 5 feet from the rear setback? Or is it side setback?
Side setback.
Side setback. And the 47%, which is a 7% difference in the impervious surface.
Correct.
Gotcha. And that's with the addition, the entire amount would be 47%.
Is that correct, Derek?
That's the house, the existing driveway, everything.
With the new proposed.
Yes, that's
Gotcha.
exactly right.
Very
Yeah.
well.
Any other questions from members of the board for the applicant? All right, there being none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like it, but I want to make sure, is there anybody who wishes to speak for or against the variance request? There being none, the chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny the variance request. And just to keep things organized, the variance request will cover both the permit encroachments and the accessory building and structure discussions we were having. So essentially, the variance request will be 2 and 1, is that correct?
Correct. So it needs to be the 5-foot side setback, and then the 7% variance for the total impervious surface.
Gotcha.
Derek, is it either 1 or none? You gonna?
I think that in this instance, yes, they would need both to make it work. It's up to the board though, ultimately.
This is
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to make a motion.
all right, go ahead, Mr. Preston.
I move that we grant the request for a variance based upon the following findings of fact: that a variance from the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance would not be contrary to the public interest where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions will in this individual case result in unnecessary hardship, in that the unique conditions of this property present a situation where strict adherence to these regulations would result in an unnecessary hardship, limiting the reasonable use and development of the land. By granting the variance, we would allow for a more practical and effective use of the property without significantly affecting public safety or the environment. Number 2, that the spirit of the Unified Development Ordinance will be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. We acknowledge the intent of the Unified Development Ordinance to maintain consistency and ensure public safety and welfare. And we believe granting the variance in this case will not compromise the spirit of the ordinance, but rather provide a practical solution that addresses unique circumstances while still prioritizing the overall goals of the community. Number 3, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property, namely, these under unique circumstances such as irregular lot shape, topographic, or other site-specific factors make it impractical or unreasonably to adhere strictly to the established regulations. Granting the variance would allow for a more effective use of the property without compromising the overall intent of the Unified Development Ordinance, which aims to balance development needs with public safety and environmental concerns. Number 4, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity, and that the specific characteristics of this property, such as its size, shape, and other exceptional factors, create a situation which strict adherence to the standard setback lines and impervious surface requirements would result in an undue hardship or prevent the property from being developed in a reasonable manner. These unique conditions provide a solid basis for granting the variance, as it would allow for a practical and effective use of the property while still maintaining the overall intent of the Unified Development Ordinance. Number 5, that because of these conditions, the application of the Unified Development Ordinance to this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unnecessarily restrict the utilization of the property as follows. We acknowledge that the unique conditions of this property present significant challenges that, if the Unified Development Ordinance were applied strictly, would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the property's reasonable use. This solution would not only enable the owner to make effective use of the property, but would also ensure that the overall intent of the Unified Development Ordinance is still respected and upheld, as it would allow for a balanced approach to development. And finally, number 6, that the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district would not be harmed by granting of the variance. We believe that granting the variance would not result in any substantial detriment to adjacent properties or the public good. The proposed variance has been carefully considered to ensure that development will not negatively impact neighboring properties in terms of aesthetic, privacy, or safety. Additionally, the character of the district will be preserved, as the variance is consistent with the general tone and intent of the surrounding area. By allowing a more practical and feasible use of the property, the variance will contribute positively to the community while still maintaining the overall objectives of the Unified Development Ordinance. And based on those facts, I make a motion to grant this variance.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Poston. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Singley. All those in favor of granting the variance request, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. The variance request is approved. There are no other items on this evening's agenda. Are there any announcements or things we need to know about from city staff?
Not tonight.
All right. Well, we thank you very much.
Yeah,
Happy
thank
New
you.
Year to everybody. And again, I would like to voice my personal opinion to the city for the great job you did at alleviating Snowpocalypse 2025. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you. We'll pass that along.
Yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All adjourned. Thank you guys very much. Drive safe.